son of a bitch.
I am a son of a bitch. It's our second episode. I apologize, but now the first thing you said on this show is son of a bitch. So I apologize.
What a wonderful way to start.
Thank you, Cass, for letting us know.
Much.
Yeah.
Oh boy, if you could only heard what I said, it was really brilliant stuff.
Oh yeah. We're still working out the kinks here. This is a two-man band.
Everything from here on out that's garbage is not my fault. The good stuff was in the beginning. I'm sorry if you missed it.
Yeah. All his good energy was already spent.
So don't worry. I can go start again. Okay, this woman. All right, let's talk about this woman. You guys have seen what you've seen so far. This woman put herself in a bubble. And she went to a grocery store, and somebody's videotaping it, first of all. So why are they videotaping? Is it somebody that knows her? So it's a spectacle. So they're taking a tragic time.
It looked like a stranger. It looked like someone was trying to. Yeah.
I'm sorry. And then they're making it, they're inflating themselves to the point where they are not only making it about themselves, now they're also telling people that I'm risking my life even at this rate in the bubble.
Well, and that bubble's giant. Like, they need to make an accommodation for her. Like, you can't get down every aisle of a store in that thing.
I'll tell you what. Somehow, I'm sorry, Michael, I don't mean to cut you off, but somehow my belt, my keychain might get snagged across that fucking bubble and pop it when I walk by it.
Accidentally, yeah, right. Accidentally.
Whoops.
Well, let's keep it rolling. Let's see what now this has to say. Is that what you're doing, that?
Is she mad? Is she mad or the most sensible person?
The guy recording it was a troll. Is she mad or the most sensible person here?
No, he's being a troll, of course.
But yeah, all right. So it's just gonna be more of that. Now this is a garbage publication anyway. But Paul Joseph Watson says, why didn't she give him a shopping list and stay at home? Instead, she went zorbing in Morrison's. Ludicrous. So and that's exactly the point.
So that's the point. Okay, so you got one asshole doing something stupid like that. If that wasn't bad enough, let's go on to our second story.
Sure.
Look, this story. Do you want me to read it, or do you want to read it?
How about I read it because I'm the one who has it in front of my screen?
Okay, go ahead.
So it says, grocery store forced to waste $35,000 worth of food after woman purposely coughs on items. A Pennsylvania supermarket was forced to throw out $35,000 worth of food after one purposely coughed on fresh produce, meat, and bakery items. Joe Fasula, co-owner of Garrity's Supermarket in Hanover Township, Pennsylvania, shared the news in Facebook post Wednesday afternoon. I'm not going to read the Facebook post. Today was a very challenging day, Fasula wrote. At 2:20 p.m. today, I got a call from a Hanover Township store. The manager informed me that a woman who the police know to be a chronic problem in the community came in to the store and proceeded to purposely cough on our fresh produce in a small section of the bakery, meat case, and grocery. While there is little doubt this woman was doing it as a very twisted prank, we will not take any chances with the health and well-being of our customers. Very reputable stance, I would say, for the store. We had no choice but to throw out all produce she came in contact with. And I'll just kind of leave it at that. I'll just leave it at that for now.
Let's pause right there. Okay, so here's the problem with appeasement, the theory of appeasement. You now have been acknowledged that this woman is a chronic problem in the neighborhood. So I don't know what has happened with her, if they have thrown her in jail before, if they've worked with her, but they've tried to work with her and appease her, and obviously she's out in the community. And now in a critical time, because people have lost their flipping minds, this lunatic does something like this, and to me, you throw the book at her. This is it. This was your three strikes and you're out.
To me, this is the kind of person you need to set an example for. I'm slowly but surely trying to pull up the pictures, but Facebook is
you know what? I'll tell you what you do with a situation like this. Are you still there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I thought it broke up a little bit. Here's what you do in a situation like this. Here's a punishment for this woman. She's going to work off $35,000 worth of produce by working for the local food bank. Okay, that's what her sentence should be.
Yeah, I like that.
Work for the local food bank to realize the importance of food. And if she does any kind of bullshit again, then you throw her ass right into prison, and she'll sit there in solitary confinement. Well, and then when she's ready to come out, you come work back at the food bank again.
Anyone who knows me and knows you as well, I'm a bit of a troll. I think you are as well. Like, I like a good bit of playful, what's the word? Countercultureness.
Prank.
Pranking behavior. But this is first off, you got to understand context. When you're providing a joke, you have to understand the context. This is not the context for coughing on food. People are riled up. Whether they should be or not, that's part of what we're going to talk about on the show.
It's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. You have to know the reality that they are riled up, whether they should be or not. And like you said, you got to throw the book at a woman like this because obviously if she's been a chronic problem at the store again, she's only going to invite more kids. I was going to say kids in particular because kids see behavior and they feel the need to repeat it. They're like, well, if someone got away with it, I might as well too. And I see that happening.
Take things serious.
Right.
You expect that from children. You expect that from them. But I mean, we are supposed to be setting examples. And people that are so self-absorbed, it's all about them. It's all about being in a bubble. It's all about coughing and making, haha, look what I did. Yeah. It's all about. So this is the disease that we have given ourselves, and it's a scourge like cancer.
Yeah, and so, I think the more examples of it that go by unpunished, I think you're going to see more cases of this. People, I mean, we had last year was the kid with the ice cream. He scooped ice cream and put it back. But the reality of the situation was. But did you ever hear? Because I looked into that further because I was curious. Did you ever hear what happened with that kid?
No, he some sort of sentence happened. I know he got arrested.
No. He didn't go to jail at all. You know why?
What?
Because what happened was he actually revealed it. I watched his Dr. Phil because he ended up going on Dr. Phil because he's a freaking crazy person. But the same kid, I mean, I guess I could pull it up, but he bought the ice cream and then he like bought it and then he went back to where he bought it from, put it on the shelf as if it was still unsold. Then he ate his own ice cream for the video, for the clout.
What a jackass.
So he was actually responsible. This is the irony of what makes it so funny to me is you have these people clout chasing. But the funny thing is, at the end of the day, they're actually reputable people. They actually do the right thing. But the thing is, they are looking for that moment of fame so much where they're going to make it seem like they're a bad person when they actually just paid for their own thing, for a spectacle. Right. And the whole point of me bringing up that story is you don't want to invite that kind of behavior because the thing is, when you get that person who actually does do it the right way, then you get people like this asshole, this woman who just coughs on a bunch of that is not a good joke. That's a bad joke.
Right. I think one of the things to take from this is when there's times that are like this, it brings out the worst in some people. And this is what you're seeing. Because not only are you seeing things like the toilet paper fly off the shelves, the greediness, the panic buying, this type of behavior is next. And then you're going to see other exploitative behavior. And now we're seeing also, I keep reading reports of people seeing latex gloves being thrown all over the ground. And now we get these people, really? You're going to throw your gloves on the ground? How is that? I mean, I guess, and at some point of me, this is to be expected, is it not?
I mean, I guess, but I don't know.
Is this what humans do? A percentage of humans are always going to be assholes and throw fucking gloves on the ground. Me, put themselves in a plastic bubble.
But this is where we as a majority need to come together and put down that kind of behavior. Cass just said degradation of humanity. We're devolving. Cass, I think you're right, but it's like we don't need to be devolving. At the same rate that some of us are devolving, I think there's some of us that are seeing what's going on, and not only can we use that as a sign to avoid it, but also we need to use it as a launching platform to go further. Like we see people like this who are literally bringing the rest of us down. If we're not calling this out right away, we're just as culpable. You know what they say. Silence is consent. That's exactly it. If we're not throwing the book at a woman like this, it's just going to invite more people. So I think we've made that point. Let's move on to our next story. How about that?
Really quickly before I lose a thought, because you made a good point there to bring it back to the thought I was going to say anyways. Is that silence is consent, which I think that we can all agree that when we see abhorrent behavior, that we have to step up as a person. If you have that gumption about you, don't quibble about it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
They say you have 7 seconds to make a decision when it comes to something.
That momentary awkwardness is a small price to pay, is what I would say.
Assess the situation. Make sure you got your facts straight. Don't attack, but at least address it so you can say, you know what? What you did there is just not acceptable. You don't have to say I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna punish you for it. You don't have to do that, but at least call it out. And if we all do that, then when people see something that really is like that, we all can agree that we're not going to tolerate it. Like I saw a video really quickly of a guy and one of those salad bars taking the ladle in the soup and sipping out of it.
Oh yeah, I saw that video. That one.
And my point to that was somebody should have
that was before the hysteria.
Instead of filming, it should have been stopped right there. The management called over, the soup taken out, decontaminated, and that man addressed, and the police should have been called. Nothing short of it.
You know, without getting into a whole nother tangent here, you're right.
Right.
You want there's part of, and I think my generation and generations below are more to blame, is this video before action culture is really annoying. Right. You know?
Yeah, I mean, you know what that's about? It's about being self-serving.
It's completely self-serving. It's personally, we're referring to tragic things. I'm going to switch the script here. When I see something beautiful, I don't think whip out my phone and capture it right away. I think let these eyeballs of mine capture it into the back of my mind. I don't look at something like I would rather be there in the moment than record it for other people. But that's just a sad state of affairs for humanity. It goes back to Cass's degradation of humanity that we are experiencing. But I think whether it's a reality that that humanity is degrading, we have the opportunity now, like it's a call to action. It's not a death sentence. It's a call to action for the rest of us. Is all.
Right. We have to be responsible with this power, because going back to what you said about videotaping things. Ever since the camera was invented, ever since cavemen painted on walls, people have wanted to capture what they saw around them.
That's true.
So I don't think necessarily it's a bad thing to want to do that, because it's a creative thing. But when it becomes obsessive and in the place of appreciating beauty, like when you see people, like you ever see that picture on the internet where it's a bunch of people on New Year's and everybody has their cameras out, and one old lady is the only one without the camera, and she's just sitting there enjoying the moment.
Yes, that's a good example. I can't say I can remember that exactly, but I can picture that story anecdotally. Like that makes total sense. So,
you get it. Okay, so that's the point. We have to
you know what bothers me more is, like, you talk about New Year's, right? The people, it's, perfect example is the people who are just having a New Year's kiss, and it's the people who are having a New Year's kiss and trying to make sure they're cataloging it with a picture.
Of course.
You know what I mean there?
I know, because it's all about, look at me, like nobody's ever had a New Year's kiss before.
It's that if a tree falls in the woods thing, did it make a sound? If you took a New Year's kiss without taking a picture, did you ever?
Did it happen?
You're right.
Right.
And it did happen. You just don't, you need to, like, I think it's a lack of self-importance in a weird way, is people think they need to share it with others more than they need to value it for themselves. It's like, for you to look at something awesome and just be like, that's enough, and just move on. That's it. I have the memory.
You know what it also is? It also is for the person who took it to look at themselves when nobody else is around.
That's a good point. Just for themselves, so for later?
Like, not only is it sharing the memory with others, like it's reminding themselves this really did happen. And that is because people have attachment issues, and they're afraid to just enjoy the moment. Like, because I might not get another moment like that.
I don't take many pictures, but when I do, most of the time it's not. I'd say at least half of the pictures I take are not for social media. At least half.
Right.
Half of them are for me to just scroll through when I'm, maybe feeling a little down on my luck and just be like, oh, that was a good time. That's about it. But I think we wrapped up the social media point here.
Right.
You had another great story from Politico. Here's what's in the $2 trillion stimulus package and what's next. This gargantuan bill won't make it to President Donald Trump's desk without some last-minute political angst. We have a picture of Mnuchin walking through what appears to be the White House. I'm just going to read the first couple paragraphs, and then you stop me when you want to make a point. Sound good? Let me address Cass. Had another reply here.
Yes.
Well, humanity has been always been awful. Humans have set other on fire for centuries. We just see if now. What do you say? What with the connected world we live in? Okay, I think what he's saying is that, like, we've been beating up on each other. It's just now we get, like, the chance to see it.
More
because of the connectivity of the internet.
Yeah. No, it's a part of, listen, I got to tell you something. That's a great point. Mm-hmm. But let's not be too biased here, because nature inherently is pure and rough and raw. It really is. Yeah. I've seen nature do horrible things, and we are part of nature. We got to not forget that.
In the fact,
we are part of nature.
I tell you this all the time. If we consider ourselves any better than animals, we're already losing.
Right.
We're animals. We're just glorified animals.
but we have the ability to be and do so much. As much damage as we do, I've seen humans do wonderful, beautiful things, and we all can admit to that.
That's true, yeah.
That's the point about this.
As bad as all the crises may seem, the miracles always seem to balance it out.
Right. There are people stepping up to the plate right now. So,
all
okay, let's talk about...
So the biggest economic stimulus in American history is hurtling toward passage, but Washington's colossal intervention to save the economy still chooses winners and losers amongst businesses and American workers. The measure includes expanded worker protections Democrats demanded along with the $500 billion rescue fund Republicans pushed to help beleaguered U.S. industries. Many Americans will get checks of $1,200 for individuals, $2,400 for married couples. The hospital industry is getting what it asked for, $100 billion in rescue funds, but the oil industry is getting nothing, and neither are cruise companies. This gargantuan bill won't make it to President Donald Trump's desk without some last-minute political angst. Senator Bernie Sanders is threatening the bill because it doesn't have enough restrictions on the business bailout, and Republicans think the unemployment aid is too generous.
Okay, stop right there.
Sure.
All right, I want to get too far into it because this is a long article and we're not going to cover all of it because of time.
I just want to get through the
No, you did fine.
You
did fine. But I'm just saying, to set this up. So this story is about how I wanted to make a mention that nobody has clean hands in this. Mm-hmm. Both of these politicians, I hope people open their eyes and start really paying attention, and we really start investing our time as a people about who has been letting us down, and maybe we need to start looking to somebody new. Because
there's people benefiting from this crisis. As much as a lot of Americans are having a hard time, there's some people that are making a good deal of money. They're wanting a good bit of influence here. Yeah. I don't know if that's the direction you were going, but that's something yeah. Well,
nobody has clean hands.
I would imagine there's some people who knew this outbreak was going to happen ahead of time and were able to plan their assets to be in the right position. Would you assume that to be true?
They're more privileged in that area because they have people watching for this kind of stuff.
Right.
Maybe it's just because even when they started to see it, maybe they were just they say, hey, I see something, maybe it looks a little dangerous, I'm going to take my chance. Well, maybe not. I don't know all the stories.
I know you were listening to a clip I was playing the other day that Bill Gates has joked in the past about having germ wars, that we should have essentially fire drills for pandemics. He's a eugenics guy.
Now he's talking about a vaccine chip that makes sure that you got your mandatory vaccine, that you're cleared, and then this is crazy.
As much as I am all for having a healthy population, I'm not about having these sweeping you need to check into it vaccinations. It's well, to me, this whole if there's a precedent that gets set, like let's say there's a universal vaccine, Cass says, I will not get chipped. I'm with you.
No,
I will not get chipped either. I will not eat bugs. I will not live in a pod. I'm with you.
It'll be IWNGC Club.
Right there, Cass said, I will not live in a pod. I beat him to it.
Right.
But it's very Orwellian. And honestly, I wonder how many people have read Animal Farm. I wonder how many people have read 1984 or Fahrenheit. I forget the number. Fahrenheit 451. But all these dystopian novels have, or even the Gulag Archipelago. It's like, if you haven't envisioned what the world would look like when you submit to one order, you can't even imagine what it'd be like. And we're on the cusp of that. And if your imagination can't see that we're on the cusp of just giving our liberty away to a universal system, I don't know what else to tell you,
Right. No mandatory vaccines, because here's the thing with mandatory vaccines. The most important point about a mandatory vaccine that you must take away from it, regardless if you're vaccine pro or anti-vaccine or somewhere in the middle.
Right.
Here's the thing. If you're mandatory vaccine, you are signing yourself up and your family up for, and your children and their children, for vaccines you don't even know that have not yet been developed, which you have no idea what they are. And you are trusting the government, who has been known to, on the FDA, every drug that has been recalled has been approved by the FDA. So there's some question there. So as long as there is question, you can never sign up for anything mandatory. Right. That's ridiculous. So that's the thing we should all agree on. And this is where we need to come. We need a party that can understand that middle ground concept and say, okay, we can discuss vaccines and give transparency and make sure everybody feels comfortable with them, and we'll let you know we test them right. But in the meantime, we are not going to give them a mandatory. I don't want one side that says they must be mandatory and one side that says no. I want a party that agrees. That makes common sense.
Right. No, I'm with you there. I'm with you 100%.
So I'm just saying. I mean, I don't want to get too off topic, but that's in regards to that.
Well, no, this is definitely a time where liberty is at stake. When you what was it for the Romans? It was when the barbarians came at their doorstep that they appointed their first Caesar, and then he never relinquished power for like 1,000 years.
Right. Well, it's always hard to get
shout out to Cass. He's been engaging in our chat. This is exactly what we're looking for. Operation Northwoods is one reason to always look side-eye at the government. The fact that any higher-up even considered that is gangster. I am with you. And with that moment, I would like to look up Operation Northwoods because I know what it is, but let's pull it up for...
Let's refresh,
Let's get a refresher for everyone because that's a good point, Mr. Cass, who I believe I know who you are on Twitter, based off your profile picture, but I'm glad to be sharing this with you this evening. So Operation Northwoods was a proposed false flag operation against the Cuban government that originated in the U.S. Department of Defense and Joint Chiefs of Staff, blah, 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 1962. Called for the CIA or other U.S. government operatives to both stage and actually commit acts of terrorism against the American military and civilian targets, blaming them on the Cuban government and using it to justify a war with Cuba. The possibilities detailed in the document included the possibility of assassination of Cuban immigrants, sinking boats of Cuban refugees on the high seas, hijacking planes to be shot down, or given the appearance of being shot down, blowing up a U.S. ship, orchestrating violent terrorism in U.S. cities. The proposals were rejected by President John F. Kennedy. All of this is cited. This is on Wikipedia. I'm not even going to any crazy right-wing crazy pages. Operation Northwoods existed, but apparently...
And that damn John F. Kennedy ruined it.
Right. I didn't live through JFK, but I feel like he's probably the closest president we've had to Trump since JFK.
I agree.
Or Trump's the closest thing we've had to JFK since JFK.
Well, that's why Mark Dice made that hat. It had a picture of John F. Kennedy with a Trump hat on.
Oh, did he?
T-shirt he made.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's got to be good.
Oh, it made people go crazy. People went nuts. They were so pissed off at him.
And Cass says neither did JFK.
Right.
So
we don't have to go through everything, but why don't you go scroll through there and pick out, just read some of the headlines of who got what
they're
money.
saying, I'm just going to go through it quick. Beefed up unemployment benefits. What they got, people who are unemployed would get an extra $600 per week for up to 4 months in unemployment benefits. Why it matters, a group of GOP senators threatened Wednesday to block a fast-tracked vote on the measure, arguing that some workers would actually get a raise over the actual pay. So just want to go through some of the quick...
Oh, real quickly, there was a clip about Bernie Sanders talked about that.
Yeah,
and he made a good point. He said these people are upset because just for a couple months, these people might make a little bit more money
than they would actually be making.
I don't disagree with.
Oh, God forbid Americans make a little bit more money to spend, and we don't need to even talk about. I don't know what the legal terminology is for it or something, or the economic terminology. I took macro and micro, but there's definitely a recorded way of saying that people who have more money generally spend less proportionally than people with less money. People with less money have to spend more of it simply on principle. So why would you want low-income people to not make more money? Because here's the thing. Low-income people, when they get money, always spend it. High-income people, when they get money, have a lower...
Always save.
They generally save it or reinvest it. They don't actually spend it in the traditional way, like going to a 7-Eleven like a low-income person would. It's not an issue. I used to be a Bernie bro. I used to be a Bernie guy. There's points Bernie makes where he's right. It's the problem is his overall system is
right, exactly. But in this regard, I agree with him, and there needs to be more voices.
He makes a good point.
They're arrogant because not only that, what they don't understand is when you give, like you said, you give these people this more money, guess what happens when the economy comes back online? Not only are they going to pay the bills that have been had, they're going to take that money and go, hey, I'm going to buy some goodies. Right. Or they're going to shop on Amazon.
Or, God forbid, they might buy a fucking house or a car.
Right.
They might actually use that money to get something that not only allows them to get a better job, but maybe have a family, to create more Americans, to...
Right.
go on vacation.
So my point is that they should not be quibbling over that kind of shit like that. That's what irritates me
That's such
about the Republicans who do shit like that.
That's one of the main reasons I can't call myself a Republican. Like,
Okay,
I am a libertarian because of, like you said, stances like that. I'm not afraid of the American lower class getting some buying power over our society. That's not a problem to me.
Right.
I have no fear.
Like, when I see people struggling as much as they are, I really don't. When
we're paid.
Cass says,
or they'll use that money to pay their debt off.
Right. What a horrible thing that would be. No, we don't want that because we want debt slaves.
You're right. Yeah.
Debt slave.
That's a very good point, Cass. They definitely don't want the debt slaves to be off their debt, suckling teat.
Well, here's my stance on it. I'll leave it with this.
Sure.
If we're willing to send millions and millions and millions upon millions of dollars overseas to other countries,
Israel
people we don't even know.
Who said that?
Was that?
Who said Israel? Cass, was that you?
Oh,
Go on.
Maybe.
Sorry, I was just being funny.
Okay. Whatever the country is, it doesn't even matter who it is. If we're willing to do that, are you telling me we're not willing to give the struggling people of America a little extra? Say, not only this is going to supplement you, we want to give you a little bit extra to say we're sorry this is happening right now. We know you're struggling.
And maybe there's more we could have done ahead of time so that you didn't have to deal with this.
Right.
Jeremiah, I didn't say with it. Shout out Jeremiah. Good friend of the show. He's been on the show before. Glad to have you on.
Not incorrect, that's for sure.
So, did you want to go deeper into the story, or do you want to move on to the next one?
Well, depends on. We have some time. The next story
we have time.
So let's go a little bit farther.
To anyone, this is our second show, but we're trying to keep this into an hour show. We don't want to make it go much further, so we plan on wrapping up by 8:00 Central. So, loans to the industries, $500 billion. What they got? The Treasury Department would divvy up $500 billion pot of loans to struggling industries like airlines and cities and states. Why it matters. Rules added to the bill will order an inspector general and accounting committee to oversee how much money is spent. So it sounds like they even know it's a wishy-washy situation and they're going to be giving money to companies regardless. So that seems like a bit of a nothing burger there in my mind.
Right.
Checks are on the way. All U.S. residents with adjusted gross income up to $75,000 would get $2,400 to couples, a rebate payment. They are also eligible for an additional $500 per child. The payments would start phasing out for earners above those income thresholds and would not go to single filers earning more than... Okay, so essentially there's some... Why it matters, people who don't pay taxes, such as those with very low incomes, may be hard to reach the way the program is designed. Okay, so I think it's saying something about the... there being an issue with checks getting out to the right people, which that's something I was concerned about because I know I moved back. I was living in Chicago last year. I moved to my parents, and now I live here in my apartment. I'm wondering, it's like, where are they going to be asking me for my money? And like, am I going to have an issue verifying my employment, my address? Like, I personally, I think if I'm going to receive one of these checks because I would qualify, is it going to be an uphill battle for me trying to justify who I am and that I deserve it? You know?
No, it's attached to your Social Security number. So whatever your address attached to your Social Security number is, you're going to get it.
The reason I bring that up isn't necessarily for me in particular. The reason I bring that up is because there could be a lot of Americans who have a worse situation than I. The point I bring up is I'm not in dire straits, but like, picture anyone in more dire straits than I and them trying to get their checks off this. It might be kind of hard for some of these people to get those checks, especially they're going to need them more than I would, you know?
Well, that's true. But here's the thing. The argument's always been is how can you give a tax break to people that don't pay any taxes?
That's fair.
To me, I don't like to think of it like that so much. This is to help people that are struggling with income to bridge the gap until this crisis is resolved so they can get back on their feet again. I don't care whether they have 3 kids and they're getting money back or not. It really doesn't bother me. Like I said, if we're giving money to foreign countries, hand over fist to the tune of trillions of dollars over the years, I have no problem giving it to our American citizens. At least the money's going to be spent, whether it's on the black market or
that's what I was
going
to say. And like I said, that's money being well spent. It's being spent in the right industries. It's being
So
spent in the
I
right
think
ways.
that's where Republicans get it wrong on this.
They completely do. And Republicans, any Republican supporters, any Republican, listen. This is why you're losing voters like Steve and I. There's a whole
Right.
You know,
if you're willing to give corporations billions of dollars of money to help, and I get the idea behind it because they're supposed to use that to help their employees. Okay, fine. But at the same time, we should be able to help our citizens out.
I can even see their logic. I understand the logic behind it, but it's sometimes as a business, you need to understand that you're well off and you need to operate out of a loss in order to get you. Yeah, there's a human element, but I was going to say you need to operate out of a loss intentionally sometimes for the sake of your longevity. Would you say that's true, Steve?
Right. I agree with that 100%.
It's like it sounds counterintuitive. So, hospitals are getting $100 billion. I'll just leave it at that. That's kind of the end of the article. Airlines are getting some money. Prize for retaining payroll. State and local governments are getting some money. Pentagon's getting some money. Minimal aid to insurers to make sure they can offset their subsidies. I'll leave it at that. Was there anything else you want to touch on any of those last few points?
I was just going to say that just the bottom line with this whole story is
plan. Cass says plan ahead. He's right.
Yeah, right. That's the idea. That's it. Absolutely. I think, because
I was just going to say, I think that the people who have planned ahead are showing themselves out, and the people who did not plan ahead are showing that they did not as well. Whether that's from a family perspective, whether it's from a business perspective, whether that's from a government perspective, the people who did not plan, because I know one thing in particular, sorry to go on a tangent, but I know Trump called out Cuomo, Governor Cuomo from New York, because Cuomo went out and said, he's like, we don't have enough medical emergency gear, blah, 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 whatever. We don't have enough, and we're asking the federal government for help. Well, Trump came out and said in his press conference, he says, well, actually, I looked it up, and a year ago, you were offered a very lucrative opportunity at getting all the gear you're talking about. The problem is you chose to not accept that deal. You didn't choose to accept that offer that was on your table, and now you don't have the preparation emergency gear you said you needed. And for some reason, now you're saying, now that the crisis is upon you, you're saying, well, I didn't plan ahead and I don't have it. Trump is right. He's the father going, man, no, you should have planned ahead, and I'm not going to bail you out here. And that's the lesson that needs to be learned here.
Well, I agree with that, but
just because you're governing over people who are suffering doesn't mean you get to cut in line ahead of the people who did plan ahead.
I agree with that. But here's the thing that you got to keep in mind. Mm-hmm. Since this society has so much abundance around in small distances, that means people don't have to travel far to access abundance.
Right.
It would behoove us to make sure the lowest common denominator has the basic necessities, because otherwise people that don't get desperate and they will take advantage of these abundances by taking matters in their own hands and cause trouble. And we will have to deal with them one way or another. So I'm not saying we should make it easy.
Right.
I think we make it livable and unpleasant and an incentive for you to get out of it, but we don't let them end up being derelicts because we all suffer.
I feel like we're starting to spiral into the whole welfare debate because that's really what it
We don't want to do that, but I just wanted to finish it up because if we're going to say that, I want to equal it out.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's a very good point. It's just like we run the risk of getting into is welfare worth it, which is a whole... That's a dead spiral. Right. So let's get into the next article you sent me.
Yes.
Justice Department.
I've been dying to talk about this topic.
Well, let's get it on record then. Justice Department sides with female athletes who do not want to compete against biological males. Does this have a tie-in with the?
This is a pet peeve of mine.
Okay.
For a while now.
Okay.
For a while now.
Would you like me to read the first couple paragraphs here real quick?
Before you read, I just want to preface it.
Sure.
Let me just preface it.
Yeah, drop it like it's
hot,
baby.
For so long now, I've been hearing about...
Cass, smoke it up, baby. Go ahead.
Absolutely. I'll be joining you soon.
Same here.
Here's the thing. For the longest time, under the guise of inclusiveness, we have lost our mind. And this is the easiest argument to make of why this is so crazy, that where people are... putting inclusiveness in front of common sense. So I'm going to go ahead and let you read some of this, but this is what it's about. And this is going to be a real easy argument to tie up which is why we're going to get into the other link I sent you. Will make sense in a little bit. So go ahead.
Okay. And I just want to preface your preface with saying that inclusiveness over meritocracy is never the way. It's never the answer. Meritocracy over inclusiveness.
I know. We have to learn.
Some people need to be isolated to understand how worthless they are. Speaking from experience here. The U.S. Department of Justice has sided with 3 female high school athletes who do not believe they should be forced to compete with biological boys who identify as girls. The Attorney General William Barr on Tuesday signed a statement of interest that said the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference policy allowing biological males who identify as females to compete in sports against biological females prevents females from being able to participate in single-sex athletics. Under the CIAC's interpretation of Title 9, however, schools may account for the real physiological differences between men and women. Instead, schools must have certain biological males, namely those who publicly identify as female, compete against biological females. Barr and department officials wrote, according to the Associated Press, in so doing, CIC deprives those women of the single-sex athletic competitions that are one of the marquee accomplishments of Title IX. Now, I just want to say, fuck Title IX. One of my best friends went to school, got a Division I scholarship as a wrestler, wrestled actually his freshman year, qualified for the National Wrestling Tournament, I think he got beat. His second year he qualified again, and then his third year of wrestling after qualifying for nationals 2 years in a row, never really getting a chance to place. You know why he didn't get to wrestle his junior year?
Title IX.
Title IX, baby. They deemed wrestling, because to anyone who doesn't know anything about Title IX, to its full extent, is Title IX means for every one male sport there needs to be a female. So at his school, I don't want to get into any details here, but his school determined that wrestling was no longer a viable sport worth maintaining in their program because they didn't have a female sport to match it. So my friend still got his full scholarship, but he no longer got to compete in the sport that he had worked for his whole life solely because there wasn't enough female representation at his school. End rant. Title IX is bullshit. And I know women who think it's bullshit too.
The system is running it, not the humans. The humans created a system that takes on a life on its own. So let's talk about this.
Yes.
This subject, my pet peeve. And I'll tell you my theory on this. Okay. So now, under the idea of inclusiveness, we are telling people who, for whatever reasons, we not are quite sure, figured out why they feel that they're a different gender inside of what they have born, and that's okay. And I'm not against anybody changing their gender.
I'm not even one to put that to test.
Right. I just want to say that's I'm fine with all of that. But what I have a problem with is, we don't know the motivation of some of the people that are doing this when it comes to competing. For one, that's number one. Because they might be one of these people that never got acknowledged. Nobody accepted them. Nobody accepted them. No accepted them. So now I got an idea. I'll compete against the girls, and I'm bound to win because I'm a man. I have masculinity, and I have bigger muscle mass. I have bigger bone structure. I have better joints.
Everyone's equal. It's 2020.
No, they're not. Okay, men are stronger, and they're more able to. I mean, on the general scale, not always. I'm just saying the man body is built to be more muscular, and the female body is built to be more soft. It's a fact of nature.
Well, and a lower center of gravity for women too. No one ever mentions that, but that actually is very good for gymnastics and other.
Because of childbearing, by the way.
Right.
Because their hips are designed
women have better
differently.
balance than men.
The nature itself has designed our skeletons different, you sons of bitches. So we're different. So anyway,
God bless us for it.
Person has a motivation to beat somebody else just on the fear fact that they can because of their masculine structure and say they're women so they can get accolades that they don't really deserve. Number one, that's the first problem I have. And number two, let's talk about how all pro sports or any athletics, they don't allow you to do performance-enhancing drugs.
Oh. Okay,
so let's talk about Lance Armstrong, who got stripped of his titles because he was found to be using performance-enhancing drugs. So what is the bigger performance-enhancing drug than being a motherfucking man and pretending to be a woman?
Well, I have
So
your,
you're
I have your,
going to-
I switched it over to your biology page, biography page
Yes.
on Lance Armstrong.
So this
just so
is
you know.
from the biology page. If anybody wants to
Biography.
read, and if anybody knows who Lance Armstrong is, this guy won all sorts of fucking titles with his bicycle. And because he did doping, which is a performance enhancement, apparently, at some point in his life, they stripped him. So therefore, sports has recognized that by when you cheat, you are stripped. You don't get to compete. So
Right.
now we are actually turning out, not allowing sports to have that anymore. Sports has to be told to shut the fuck up and allow somebody to cheat in order to win because we won't want to
Right.
hurt their feelings.
It is a hell of a double standard. You're right. I see where you're going with this. And I just want
my proposal is this. My last thing I'll say on this is, I would say the federal government should say, if you are a transgender person, and this is going to be controversial, but I don't care, you are not allowed to compete in professional sports.
I agree.
Pick something else.
Or you say
else.
professional. I would argue that
Or high school or any sport.
I was gonna say you shouldn't. Okay.
Unless
here's the
you're
thing.
playing
Okay.
against other
Okay.
transgenders.
I've got a hyperbolic situation for you that might be a better example here. Hear me out.
Go ahead.
So let's say, because there's people pushing for, and this is more hyperbolic on purpose. There's people pushing for pedophilia to be an accepted sexual preference.
I've heard of this lunatic stance. Yes, go ahead.
I'm gonna run with it for a second, okay?
Go ahead. I've heard of it. Go ahead, though.
Let's say we do choose, and for clarity's sake, I am not about accepting this as a sexual preference. But there are people who want to say, well, some people just never grow out of being a kid and they just want to fuck kids for the rest of their lives. Whatever.
And they're a child trapped inside an adult body, right?
Right. And the thing is, it's like, if you're going to be an overly compassionate person and accepting and including and whatever, sure, yeah, let's include everybody, even the people who want to screw kids at 38, 48, 58, 68, whatever. I don't support that, but let's go with the predilection that that's what we're going to go off of. If that's the case, and we're even going to say that these people are going to be an accepted class, should we not, at the very least, even if we're going to move on with this crazy predilection, should we not at least be like, you know what? Maybe they shouldn't be cafeteria volunteers at an elementary school.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's
right.
like, even if, let's admit that this whole slope is slippery, let's just pretend that it's not normal for a second and say, let's just avoid this altercation altogether.
Dude, actually, I got a better idea. I got an idea. Let's all the pedophilias all get to be with other pedophilias, and we can give them a bunch of little baby rubber dolls, and they can fucking have at them like a bunch of fucking.
Yeah. Oh my
freaks
God, Steve, you bring up a good point. Why is the what's it called? Sex robot or there's a term for it, sex toy or
No, get their kinks out. Get their kinks out with rubber dolls.
I was gonna say, you know how they're making all these like sex robots and everything, and they're supposed to look like grown women? Why are we making grown women one? If the depraved really want to fuck kids, why don't we make fake kids for them to fuck? It's better than real kids.
You know what? Somebody will say, because then they're going to want to take it to the next step. They're going to want to take it next. They're going to want a real kid. That's like, listen, they already do want a real kid.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not a fan of accelerating that either.
I'm not either. I agree. I'm just saying
that's a joke to me.
Of course, here.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, my point is, if transgenders want to compete, let them compete like the Special Olympics,
right? With
other transgenders
in a trans class. You shouldn't. Right. I mean,
I'm okay with that. You can include a trans class.
I was about to say, I could look up. I've seen many videos of especially like deadlifters or. One person I follow on Twitter, I recommend. Actually, I'm gonna pull it up real quick. I recommend a follow of Zuby. He is a Oxford educated.
Zuby.
Yeah, Zuby is fantastic. He's an Oxford educated
UK, right?
black man. He has a fitness ebook out there, by the way. But he holds the, and actually this is his pinned tweet. I keep hearing about how biological men don't have any physical strength advantage over women in 2019. So watch me destroy the British woman's deadlift record without even trying. P.S. I identified as a woman whilst lifting the weight, so don't be a bigot. Crying, laughing emoji. So this is a man who literally holds the British women's deadlifting record because he understands the ridiculousness of the situation we're in and choose to identify as a woman playing by their rules, and then he crushed the woman's deadlift record for the UK.
And what this is supposed to do is supposed to get people's eyes open and say, oh my God, see, we're making a big mistake.
Yes.
But then they're too stupid. They double down because you know what? They're afraid to come up with ideas like I just came up with. Hey, wait a second. I know you want to compete. Let's make a special division just for transgender people, and you guys can all compete against each other.
Yeah.
You know what you did? You would be if you came out with that. They'd call you, oh, you are transphobic.
Right. I was about to say
you're saying they're not equal.
You're not being inclusive enough. And the thing is, it's not about.
No, you're saying they're not equal to other people. Well, I gotta tell you, you're not equal when it comes to being a man acting like a woman. You're not.
Well, and this is the difference between being essentially a capitalist versus a socialist. Is it's not about equality. It's about equity.
Right.
Is they want to have an equal seat at the table, whether or not they deserve it.
Right. Like they want to be able to sit in a room where people are doing calculus when they only know how to do third grade math.
Yeah, you're right. Well, that's the thing is it's like the question is, what is the benchmark of deserving someone else's attention and time? I would argue that you need to work to earn someone else's respect and work towards whether it's because you got to think about these events. People organize it. This is a venue. Someone owns the place, and when you are a trans person going to these venues, you're literally wasting their time.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like there are people, we don't discuss this, but because of one person's Vanity Fair, there are many people who suffer in the fact that whether it's women women lose most with this whole trans movement.
Which is honestly, about that story about, I'm so glad the Justice Department is stepping up and saying, you know what? We agree with that.
So, Steve,
it's dangerous too.
I want to take a step back here. Why are we talking about trans people at the end of a Corona stream?
Well, I don't know. I just was a pet peeve of mine. I thought it'd be fun to talk about.
Okay. No, I'm glad we got to talk about your pet peeve. So with that being kind of the final, did you want to say a last thing? Because we're going to wrap up here.
I was just going to say that I want to say this one more time. Listen, I have nothing against trans people. I know trans people. I think they're wonderful human beings for the most part. But just like every other human being, everybody's prone to having issues. Okay?
Yes.
So
I have issues. I'm sure you guys have issues. It's cool. It's fine.
Let's make it fair so girls aren't being endangered, and that's the biggest thing. Girls are getting hurt, physically hurt and mentally hurt, and they're missing out on opportunities they have the right to compete to because they were born a gender that they stayed with, and it's not fair. And it wouldn't be fair if the girls went to the men's division too, because then men would be soft on them.
Right. Oh, that's another good point. Well, it doesn't make sense for anyone altogether. It doesn't benefit women. It doesn't benefit men. It only benefits trans people, and they're less than 1% of the population. So fuck off. So let's find something that meets in the middle where there's an alternative that they can do. And other than that, too bad if you don't like it. That's the way life is. You're choosing that. I have one final point, and we do have a couple listeners. So I want to say while I'm about to get on to my final point before we wrap up here. I appreciate Cass. I appreciate Jeremiah for joining the chat. But please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Steve and I plan on doing this 7 o'clock every night. Tomorrow we might have a party, so we might not go tomorrow night. We don't know yet. But we're looking to do this probably, how about Monday through Thursday at 7 o'clock for the duration of this quarantine. We want to go live. So make sure you're liking, sharing this. And then subscribing so that you can do this in the future. But also, shout out to the people who participate in the chat, because as much as Steve and I think our brains are bigger than yours, we like to hear what your brains have to say, so it's not just a dialogue. All right, fuck you. My brain is better than all y'all motherfuckers.
But seriously, we enjoy the topics. This is just fun stuff to talk about. Let's talk. Let's be real. Let's be raw. Let's be honest. Let's just have fun. Let's keep
Steve and I are having a great time, and we just want to make sure we're including you guys because we don't think our ideas are that great. So we genuinely want to engage with you. So with that being said, I do want to get into my last point, and then we're going to wrap up here. So I found a National Review article saying this is a comprehensive timeline of China's COVID-19 lies. So I wanted to kind of graze over that real quickly and see if there's anything you want to say there, Steve. Sound good?
Go ahead, buddy.
Okay, so the first one being December 6th. According to a study in The Lancet, the symptom onset date of the first patient identified was December 1st, 2019, 5 days after illness onset. A 53-year-old woman who had no known history of exposure to the market, that being of the coronavirus, also presented with pneumonia, was hospitalized in an isolation ward, in other words, as early as the second week of December. Wuhan doctors were finding cases that indicated the virus was spreading from one human to another as early as the first week in December of last year. So there's a few other ones, but I think the most important being more in February, where things really... I mean, there's a few January, and the thing is, I will actually... Real quick, I'm going to paste this in the chat for anyone who does want to see this in the future, both also on Twitter, but no one is on the Twitter chat. But there's been a lot going. The Chinese have been lying for quite a while, and actually, this article's good, but I have a couple things on Twitter. I can type Twitter. That there was Chinese. I don't know if I did I show this on the last stream. There was some straight up lies that the foreign minister of China at South Africa posted, and it was alarming to me that they're just trying to lie this blatantly to people. But we live in this era of technology where if you say it and no one speaks up, people just assume it to be the truth. And here it is. Here's the first one. So, more evidence suggests that the virus was not originated at the seafood markets in Wuhan at all, not to mention the so-called made in China. And this is posted by an account that says the Chinese embassy in South Africa. 9,000 followers, not anyone I follow. And then they had retweeted an article by Lijian Zhao, who is a verified blue check mark, spokesperson and deputy director general, Information Department and Foreign Ministry of China. He even has a YouTube and Facebook account. He has over 500,000 followers, and he tweets out, "This article is very much important to each and every one of us. Please read and retweet it. COVID-19, further evidence that the virus originated in the U.S." So, as a final moment, and I will share this tweet as well into the YouTube chat only, because we have more people watching here. You look into this article for me. Tell me, am I crazy? Are Steve and I crazy? Are we crazy for thinking that
yes,
it originated in China? That this is a Chinese virus, as our president wonderfully stated on the air.
China.
This is invented in China. But
I'm gonna call it that because that's where it originated. China.
The Chinese information department is literally providing counter information, trying to pin this on us. And the thing is, we're not even bringing it up. Like, to me, this is almost so serious. It's almost a declaration of war. They're trying to start shit on us, and we're just sweeping it on the rug. And here's the funniest thing about the whole situation to me: it has 20K likes. Respect. 20K likes. That's a good bit. But 12K retweets, when your ratio of likes to retweets is over 50%, you're not doing so hot, homie.
Yeah, to me, I gotta tell you, I'll leave you with this conspiracy theory thought.
Drop it like it's hot, baby.
I talked to you about this before. If I was a Chinese government and I wanted to get revenge on Trump for trade deals and talking shit and making us look bad and all the American workers leaving China, I would come up with a solution to fuck up all their economy so they could really know that in a backdoor way that I really wasn't too happy without. Now, that's the other part of the reason for them pinning it on the U.S. So not only will we do it, not only will we fuck your economy, and all the whole world, because we don't give a fuck because we're selfish, we will also blame it on you.
And we'll make you hate yourself for it. We'll make you hate yourself for it.
Donald Trump, don't trust China. China asshole.
All right. Well, I think on that note, I think we wrapped up with a great episode. A little better than our first one. What do you think, Steve? We did a little better than our first time?
We redeemed... Just when I thought we couldn't be any stupider, we do something like this.
You totally redeemed yourself. All right. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. Like I said, make sure you're liking, comment how you feel. You didn't tune in live. It's cool, but tell us how you're thinking. Yeah. Don't make us think like we're the ultimate opinion here. Tell us how much we suck. And make sure you tune in next time when we go live. Thanks, everybody. Peace out.
Peace. Till next time.